Good evening. This is Maestro Cortello with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today we got 2v2 on Calderis Refinery with some very good players. Our first player right here is Fear, who is going to go for 3 Sentinels. He is playing as the Lord General. The Lord General is a ranged support hero. He does not have any abilities to start out, but every single one of his war gears gives him an ability, and they're usually for buffing his troops, either increasing their damage, healing them over time, increasing their range, etc. He's also the only hero who is a squad. His teammate is Stoned Commissar, also known as Stoned Elfboy, playing as the Commissar Lord. Commissar Lord is a slightly tanky melee hero. He's got a big sword right there. He has a free energy shield. He focuses a bit on buffing with his ability to execute troops, which does double the damage of the squad that gets executed. On the other side of things, we got this Word Bearer's Chaos Lord right here. The Chaos Lord is a very tanky melee hero. He has a twin-linked bolter in his hand. He can kill the weak, as he did just right there. He's wearing Terminator armor. Has some interesting ranged attacks with his Combi Flamer or his Armor of the Inferno. Finally, we have His Royal Highness, King Raffa, playing as this Plague Champion who's rushing up along with his Chaos Space Marines. The Plague Champion starts out as a ranged hero. He has a Plague Bolter, which does damage over time. He can become a melee hero by getting the Plague Sword or the Plague Fist. He can also repair vehicles and build turrets. Alright, so Fear, as we can see right here, already has 2 Sentinels. He has a 3rd one coming out. Interesting build. He doesn't have much rapport support for these Sentinels, but they will be doing quite a bit of DPS while not bleeding. And I guess the point of the build is that he's going to be bleeding these Chaos Space Marine models for 66 requisition apiece. And then the Sentinels will not bleed at all. Only the Guardsmen will bleed. Right now, Fear hasn't even lost a model on his Guardsmen. In fact, he hasn't even upgraded to get the Sergeant to get extra models, since he apparently doesn't need them. Now, the Heretics were about to charge in there. I don't think Fear actually has the stomp on any of his Sentinels, so right there, the Heretics would not have any danger of being stomped, but with so much range DPS there, I think they were just going to lose models without achieving anything. So, Stone Commissar has gone for practically the opposite build. He's gone for triple Guardsmen instead of triple Sentinels. Neither one of these is a very common Imperial Guard build. They're both a little unusual, and the Plague Champion goes down right there. One of the good things about this triple Sentinel build is that it actually does give you a lot of ability to kill things on retreat. Now, range damage, normally not very good on retreat, but one of the great things about these Sentinels is that they have really fast speed, so you can chase down a retreating unit. And with that, it can be, if you don't judge your engagement well, and you retreat a unit when it does not have much health left, you can really risk losing it against these triple Sentinels, which is what happened to that Plague Champion. Now, both Chaos players have gotten a Havoc. Raffa has double Chaos Space Marines. He's got Eternal War on both of them. Tyger only has a single Chaos Space Marine, and he's got double Heretics. Now, this matchup, Chaos versus Imperial Guard, it's a very tough matchup. It has always been known as a hard matchup for the Imperial Guard. This is something I'm coming to understand very well as I main Chaos, and these days I actually play Imperial Guard as my secondary race. Guardsmen in a lot of trouble, need to retreat there. And there was a time when I had heard that Space Marines versus Tyranids was the worst matchup in the game, but I have to say I feel like this one is up there. It's pretty tough for the Imperial Guard. Now, ironically, I actually think Sentinels are better against Imperial Guard Sentinels are better against Chaos than they are against most other races, since Chaos generally actually has less range DPS in Tier 1 than most of the other races. But they can still... they have other things. One of the... obviously, Suppression teams are generally pretty good against Imperial Guard in Tier 1. They don't have a jump unit, so they rely on units like Catachans and artillery spotters to counter setup teams. Now, the Havoc does the least amount of damage out of all the setup teams. But one of the things that's good about it is that it suppresses instantly. And what helps with that instant suppression is that it can quickly suppress the guardsmen to pin them in place, which can make it so that they can't really pursue the Sentinel when it needs repairs. And then you can follow it up as Chaos with your actual damage against the guardsmen, which could just be Chaos Space Marine fire, could be grenade launchers from heretics. You see grenade launchers right here. In fact, Tyger has gone for double grenade launcher heretics. Very, very powerful guard build against Imperial Guard. We see it's absolutely devastating against these guardsmen right here, as well as the Catachan Devils. Very, very powerful build against Imperial Guard. I actually pretty much go double grenade launcher heretics almost all the time against Imperial Guard when I play Chaos. Now Fear has gone for this triple Sentinel build. One of the big risks of going Sentinels against Chaos, and especially getting multiple Sentinels, is that although Sentinels are a bit better against Chaos in Tier 1 than they are against most other races, Sentinels are pretty much terrible against Chaos in Tier 2. Mainly because any mark upgrade again on Chaos Space Marines is going to very hard counter the Sentinel. Obviously, the Mark of Tzeentch makes it extremely hard to keep the Sentinel alive. It's almost more of a liability to try to keep the Sentinel alive, or at the very least, you need to just manage it so that the Sentinel does not fight Mark of Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. Mark of Khorne Chaos Space Marines are actually very good against the Sentinel as well, since they do plasma damage. The DPS is actually pretty high when you get that plasma damage bonus against the Sentinel's heavy armor. And if they actually get into, if the Mark of Khorne Chaos Space Marines actually get into range with the Sentinel, they will be tearing it up with power melee axes. So it's a double cap for Tyger and his Royal Highness King Raffa. Raffa has actually lost his Heretic squad, so he's replacing it. But Tyger is being extremely oppressive here against Fear. Raffa actually doing pretty well against Stoned Commissar or Stoned Elfboy, even though he did lose a Heretic squad, but a minor loss. He's going for a Gen Bash right here. Having double Eternal War Chaos Space Marines is actually pretty good for bashing generators. That damage adds up once they have Eternal War. And Raffa is just kind of set up here. But we have a attack from multiple directions. And the Commissar actually gets in thanks to that Power Sword. And this is actually a winning engagement for Stoned Commissar. Very disciplined, very patient right there. To attack from two directions, disrupt the Havoc, and then get the Commissar in there. He actually used the Power Sword ability Lead by Example, which improves the Commissar's speed by 2 for its duration. One Sentinel already goes down to these Autocannon Havocs. Autocannon Havoc, also something potentially extremely good against the Imperial Guard. Just good against everything that the Imperial Guard has, pretty much. Prepares for any vehicles that the Imperial Guard might bring out. It's only okay against the Sentinel. And it's very, very good against the Guardsmen as well, because it does do a little bit of a splash. We have a flare right there. A flare on top of the artillery spotter smoke grenade. So this artillery spotter is one of the tools that Imperial Guard uses to deal with setup teams. Either right there, we actually saw the blind grenade reducing the range of the Havoc to 0, so that the Sentinels could just straight up shoot it. Double cap now for the blue team coming back into this game. Need to be very careful though with this Chaos Lord. Has the Combi Flamer, basically more than doubling his range DPS while also giving, and he still gets 100% fire on the move. The Lord General is inside that Imperial Guard bunker. Needs to be very careful. It's going to be hard to defend this bunker, I think, at this point. The Catachandels, I think, are setting up an improvised explosive, but they are going to die setting it up. They got very close right there, taking a lot of grenade hits.
Missiles ready.
So we have double missile launcher sentinels. How is Stone Delphoid doing? So Stone Delphoid now has gotten a shock troopers. I've been playing Company of Heroes, so he's gotten a stormtrooper squad. Over here, it looks like Tyger just straight up takes out the bunker. One of the ways to deal with a bunker is to get a unit like an autocannon Havoc or a plasma cannon Devastator and just attack ground once you know where the... Basically, just once you know where the building is. You can even do it from outside of sight range. It works very, very well. Triple cap now for the red team. I've been focusing a lot on Fear and Tyger. I don't know how much interesting stuff is going on right here, but one of the great things about Stone Commissar's build is that he does have a massive amount of range DPS. And right now, Raffa actually has some decent range DPS as well with double Chaos Space Marines. But the problem with Raffa's build is that he's going to bleed disproportionately. When you have at least double, if not triple guardsmen, 2 of them with plasma guns, they will be bleeding those Chaos Space Marines disproportionately. They will very quickly kill one of the models off those Chaos Space Marines. And then the Chaos Space Marines are just 66 requisition to reinforce each model. But the Havoc is still set up. It's starting to back off now because it would probably lose models if it stayed in there taking hits. Fear now has a Chimera, which will allow him to reinforce his single guardsman squad. It's actually, and he loses. Wow, he's losing a lot of things. So unfortunately, this is part of the power of Chaos in this case, and the combination, especially the combination of Mark of Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. And, oh my god, what else was that? That was Immolate from the Combi Flamer. I think this Chimera is in a little bit of trouble. As is the Sentinel. Fear taking quite a few losses, although I think part of it's somewhat expected considering the units he chose, and he loses the last Sentinel as well. Very, very difficult to keep a Sentinel alive into Tier 2 against Chaos. Difficult enough to keep 1 Sentinel alive, let alone 3. Even this Chimera is somewhat well countered, well, mainly by the Plague Marines. Tyger also does have this autocannon Havoc, although right now it is targeting the Lord General in the middle. Wow, so Raffa and Tyger are already in Tier 3. Raffa going for a Land Raider Phobos. Fear has taken quite a few losses. All he has are double guardsmen and a Chimera. Certainly double guardsmen and a Chimera. Good in many ways, but I feel like not quite enough for what they have to deal with. Double guardsmen and a Chimera is good when you're just starting your Tier 2. But we already have Tyger and Raffa into Tier 3. Tyger now getting a Predator, so this is not looking good. This is really not looking good at all for the guardsmen, especially now with VPs are at 117 to 378. Stoned Elfway now has a fully kitted out Commissar. He's got the Power Sword, Carapace Armor, and the Aura of Discipline. Oh my god, this Chimera is absolutely in trouble from that Land Raider Phobos. It looks like the Chimera does get out of there, but it basically just got shot once, and I think it was at less than half health. Now, strange thing is, neither Stone Commissar nor Fear have any AV at all, and they have a huge vehicle to deal with. They're both getting heavy weapon teams, which is just a good response. I think there are a lot of good reasons for that. First of all, the heavy weapon team is a very cheap anti-vehicle option, and they need something cheap. Neither one of them has that many resources. It's also setup. Oh my god, that Chimera is dead. Setup AV is really some of the hardest AV there is. Wow, it's hard to keep a Chimera alive against a Land Raider Phobos. Setup AV is just some of the hardest AV there is. It has some of the longest range. We have Execute on one of the heavy weapon teams, though. Already doing a lot of damage to that Land Raider Phobos. Now it's taking double Land Raider shots. I mean, double las cannon shots. And that could actually... That's really bad for the Land Raider Phobos. And we have an Execute on the other heavy weapon team, too. So So Stone Commissar executes both heavy weapon teams, and wow, the Land Raider Phobos is already dead. And this Chaos Predator is going to go down to... Oh my god. What a play by Stone's Commissar. Taking advantage of that Carapace armor. That Carapace armor is, I feel like, the least commonly seen armor upgrade. Yeah, Raffa's just like, wow. Because they were in such a huge winning position right there. And, oh my god, I think even these Plague Marines can go down. Wow. So huge victories for the Imperial Guard. Some brilliant plays.
They're closing with us.
But Stone Elf Warrior, Stone Commissar really putting to good use that Carapace armor that is usually the least common of the Imperial Guard, or of the Commissar armor upgrades. Usually the Inspired Determination from Bionic Eye, or from or the Flak Jacket are a lot more common, so very surprising to see that. Now we still have las cannons on the field. The las cannons should target this shrine since they can get it from long range, and there's not much else that their las cannons can do. Oh, we have an Imperial Abyss! Now the Imperial Abyss killed a bunch of guardsmen, but actually it... Wow, okay, so it didn't kill much aside from that Lord General, but not a single squad died from that Imperial Abyss. So that was an Imperial Abyss right on top of the guardsmen. They retreated out of there, but Fear and Stoned Elf Boy, they retreated their guardsmen, and then they used the summary execution ability that you get by getting a Commissar on your guardsmen to just look at this range mob. To allow them to stop retreating right by this bunker, and then they just reinforced off this bunker. It's now a 1-to-1 cap. DJ Raffa is going for a decap though. Only 42 VPs left for the blue team, and one of those shrines goes down, I think. Now these Mark of Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, they're probably the best overall ranged unit in the game, but right now they're just... Oh my god, they are murdering those guardsmen. If more of the guardsmen turn and fire at the Mark of Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines, they should be able to force off the Mark of Tzeentch Chaos Space Marines. Unfortunately, Fear does not pay attention and does lose his heavy weapon team. Oh my god, and Let the Galaxy Burn as well. We have, looks like, just a creeping Basilisk Barrage. Not such a great global these days, but still not bad sometimes, just when you need the disruption. And sometimes your opponent will respond to it just by retreating. And sometimes that's not bad at all, because that gets them off the field. And right now Fear and Stone Commissar really need to get to keep Tyger and Raffa off the field. But Raffa and Tyger they're losing too much, and they're no longer winning fights. Yeah, they need to take out this shrine. So Fear only with double guardsmen, but he is keeping them by this medic bunker, so they are both getting healed as well as reinforcing. So it's now a double cap with only 28 VPs left for both Fear and Stone Commissar. Tyger and Raffa are preparing to go for basically just regrouping, preparing. Guardsmen right here, I'm guessing going for a back cap. They really need just every VP they can get. They also can't afford to really even for a second let like even give up a VP, and that's certainly possible with a back cap on this northern VP. So it's a back cap by the Imperial Guard would be very helpful. Fear now going for double Manticores. He's obviously had some very interesting builds, usually getting more of a unit than you would normally expect. But Manticores, great unit overall, and I think going to be pretty good against some of the builds that both Raffa and Tyger have. It's obviously both Raffa and Tyger still have Havocs. Manticores are fantastic against setup team weapons. They are not quite as good against mobile infantry, but the heretics are so squishy that you can actually lose a heretic squad from full health to a single Manticore strike. And we have another Imperial Abyss actually mostly missing things And now the... Oh, very nice play. So the Lord General has the Melt-A-Gun. That gives him the Fight Harder ability, which increases weapon rate of fire, basically a damage increase. Manticore is also very good against Chaos Space Marines, will bleed them. If they don't react quickly enough, you actually can risk losing the entire squad from a Manticore, and even if you don't, you can risk bleeding 2 or 3 models. Lord General in a lot of trouble right here against a Bloodletter squad from Raffa. Tyger now with a new Land Raider Phobos, and unfortunately this time Stoned Elf Boy. I think Stoned Elf Boy still has his heavy weapon team, but Fear doesn't. On the other side of things, though, Fear does have double Manticores, so as long as this heavy weapon team can snare the Land Raider Phobos, both of those Manticores can unleash, and that would actually do a lot of damage. And here's that second Land Raider Phobos coming into the middle. Only 22 VPs to 279. But the Imperial Guard has formed a veritable Maginot line right here. And now a heavy turret that's also going to help out with pretty much anything. Can hit infantry for good damage, can hit the Land Raider Phobos for good damage as well. It would work very nicely in combination with the snare on that las cannon. And of course, the range blob here from the Imperial Guard, especially with that Fight Harder ability, is pretty much just going to be winning against the ranged units from Chaos right now. And even these Chaos Space Marines are going to get wiped. And now we do have the Land Raider Phobos is starting to move in a little bit, but it's already taking las cannon shots. And it's already at half health. It's getting repairs, but it's already taking las cannon shots. And there go the Manticore strikes. Oh my god! Killing everything, including the Land Raider Phobos. Tyger. And that was actually a concede by Raffa and Tyger. So, oh my god, what a money shot at the end there. Quite a crazy game. Very tough matchup, but Fear and Stone Commissar pulled through. Some absolutely brilliant play from them. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.